Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Paul Wakim. Paul is the CEO and co-founder of TwnSqr, a real estate technology startup devoted to breaking down the barriers of the real estate industry by providing homeowners and real estate professionals full control over the connections they make for their next real estate transaction. They have reimagined how the real estate process for buyers, sellers, agents, and investors should work. Paul got his start in real estate by starting one of the largest real estate photography companies on the East Coast. He has also been involved in many real estate investing transactions, including wholesaling, flipping, and building ground up new construction. It's going to be an excellent conversation today. Paul, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to
Yeah,
the
thanks
show.
for having me, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Tell me a little bit about who you are, right? And how you got to starting up TwnSqr. Let's hear that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. So I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2016. That's whenever Casey Neistat was a big deal on YouTube. And I was obsessed. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she bought me a drone for my graduation present. And we, at the time, were starting a digital marketing company, something that I'm sure you and I could talk quite a bit about. And our business partner, in that business, his wife was a large real estate agent. And he said, "Guys, you just got this drone. Go out and take some photos for my wife." And we said, "Yeah, sure. No problem. We'll take some photos of her listing." I took the photos. I got in my car, was driving down the street after that first listing, and then came upon another real estate agent's sign in somebody's front yard. I called that agent and she said, "Yeah, I do want real estate photos with a drone, but I also want interior photos and everything that a professional real estate photographer or professional real estate media company wants or can offer." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I can do all that stuff." So I faked it till I made it, made up a fake portfolio of homes that I had photographed, and proceeded to grow that real estate photography company from the ground up. That agent that I called off the sign happened to be the largest real estate agent in Pennsylvania at the time. She had me photograph over 400 houses that year, and that was how I got into the world of real estate professionally.
What's interesting about real estate, so not many people know this about my story, but before I became a digital marketer, I actually thought that I was going to be a real estate agent, right? So I went out and got my license, which is an ordeal in Florida to get. So
Yeah.
here's a fun fact: one out of every 8 citizens in the state of Florida has an active real estate license today.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's just this crazy number. Now, how many of
Yeah.
them like actually do something with it? Like that's a completely different story. It's like 2% of that huge number, right? But basically what happens is that real estate is one of those things that everyone thinks like, well, I'm unemployed. I might as well go sell real estate. And bro, it just does not work like that. Right.
Yeah,
There
it
is
does
so
not.
much more that happens. You gotta find a broker, and your broker is going to find ways to siphon $100, $200 a month out of you, even when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not making any money. You get inundated with all these different programs and softwares and CRMs and this new way to do it, and how do you market it? And the fact of the matter is, how do you differentiate yourself from every other person who is doing the exact same thing, right? And
Yep.
this is especially prevalent in South Florida. It's like everyone thinks like, oh, I can sell Brickell, where all the tall buildings are near downtown Miami. It's like, yeah, you and 3,000 other people are doing the exact same
Yeah.
thing, right? And what happens is, like, how do you, so making noise in that industry is not necessarily hard to do, but but doing it effectively is, so
Yep.
managing, like, what, really figuring out who your avatar. Am I going to sell to foreign investors? Am I going to sell to domestic? Am I going to deal just in residential condos, or am I going to deal with commercial? Just all of these different things come into play. And I can tell you, it is certainly overwhelming. So
Yeah.
much so that after my 4th month of doing it, the broker basically came up to me, gave me a slap in the back of the head. It's like, bro, you have no aptitude for this. And that was actually the start of my digital marketing agency, because I made a really cool website out of something that I had no real aptitude in. right?
Yeah.
So that's my funny story. But
Yeah.
what's interesting about this industry is that you have a lot, there are a lot of directions that you can go on. Talk to me a little bit about what, how you feel like you are stepping up, to help those people actually make better and more transactions.
Yeah. So whenever I was the primary real estate photographer for our real estate photography business, I got really into the world of real estate investing. I thought that it was a good idea to get my license, so I went out and got my license. And what I realized was that there's so much technology, like you mentioned, and there's so much data in the real estate space as a whole. So I took it upon myself to try to build some of that technology myself, but with an eye towards forming high quality connections. So my entire business career, I'm 29, so it's not like I have this super long business career to stand on, but the business career that I have had, especially in real estate, is really on a foundation of connecting with people that are more experienced than me and have something that I don't. So I need to bring value to the table for both of them. So everything that I've tried to do in my real estate career has been, especially with the technology company, has been with an eye towards forming really strong connections between people that need to find one another, whether it's a seller connecting with a real estate agent or a investor connecting with another real estate investor. Everything is being done with a focus on forming that high quality connection. And it started with the people that helped me build my real estate photography business.
So, let's break this down because I feel like we're still, like in the stratosphere of,
Sure.
like where we need to be, right? Because like just by making connections within the real estate, matching buyers with sellers, it, things like that. How, where does your software come in? Like where does your secret sauce, make things better for for anyone along that value chain of what happens between the second I decide to list to the second we close.
Yep. Yep. So our software as it exists today has gone through many different iterations. We were predicting who was going to sell with an algorithm that my co-founder and I built right before COVID, and then the data got messed up and we weren't able to predict who was going to sell anymore. And then we went into the retail space, connecting retail sellers with retail agents, and then we arrived at the current iteration where our software today, our platform, is a marketplace where real estate investors can connect with one another and leverage the contacts that each have in their network to sell their properties to one another or to one another's contacts, really helping them connect on a property by property or deal by deal basis. So we provide value by not only having a marketplace for there to be a bunch of off market properties that typically aren't listed by real estate agents. That's the first piece of value, is that you can find off market properties on TwnSqr. But then for the people that bring those off market properties to TwnSqr, again, with an eye towards forming high quality connections, we allow the real estate investors to bring their properties to one another on kind of like the back end of the marketplace, in the network side of the marketplace, and say, hey, Jeff, I have this property. I think that you probably have a connection in South Florida that wants to buy my South Florida property. Can we work together? Can we split the profit? Can we partner on this so that I can make more money and so can you, with this deal that I'm bringing to the table? So it's really, again, that whole connection between the real estate investors and on a property by property basis that we help them do, really on top of our marketplace.
So how is this different, say, for example, from creating a Facebook group for a specific community or or some other type of community based program that that connects people so that they can talk about, talk shop and exchange ideas, things like that. Like
Yeah.
where does the actual value come in that they can't get from, from other tools that are available?
Yep. So I'm so happy you asked. It's a big goal of TwnSqr for myself and my co-founder is that the connections that are being formed are on a deal by deal basis or a property by property basis. If I had a property to sell in South Florida and I brought it to you, Jeff, and I said, "Hey, let's work together on this deal." Our ability to come together as businessmen and have a business relationship is going to be a lot stronger than if I just came to you and asked you questions about the South Florida market, or just posted a question in a Facebook group and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting into real estate in South Florida." I think that basing it on the property, everything on TwnSqr is based on a property. You can't just connect with somebody without there being a property involved. So we're definitely different from a Facebook group or from the biggest networking platform in the real estate investing space is an awesome website called Bigger Pockets. We're different from those types of avenues for real estate investors because everything on our platform is deal based or property based.
So, wait, so let me ask you this then. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm at a little bit lost for words, but I want to make sure
no
that I get
problem.
this right. So, as a startup CEO, right, what you're basically doing is trying to create a better mousetrap, something that is going to help a particular group of people,
Yep,
and really help them, propel themselves and do more business for everybody.
that's right.
When you have when you have all of those players coming together and they're all sort of clamoring for the same attention, how do you help segregate that, between some of your A players, B players, C players, things like that, and making sure that everyone gets an equal chance, to make a deal and to schmooze all the other investors that are in the platform, things like that, while not alienating, like the A-listers who maybe want to keep their book of business elevated and a little bit quieter. They don't want to share it with, all the pedestrians that are going around as well. How does that
Yeah.
work? How do you help segregate those avatars?
Yeah. So first things first, on our platform, you're totally right. There are the A players that bring the highest quality network. If I want to share a property in, uh, honestly, South Florida is a great example because there are some big players on our platform in South Florida. If I want to share a property with a user of TwnSqr in South Florida, they're most likely one of those A players that has a super high quality network of people that they can sell properties to. So I would bring that property to that A plus player, and they have the ability, everybody has the ability, but specifically these guys that have the highest quality network of people to sell properties to, um, they have the ability to say, "Hey, I don't know you. I don't know about this property. I'm not really interested in working with you." Everything is separate. Everybody has control over who they work with. In other words, there are other platforms in our industry where there is no control. So it's a big component of our thesis for this business, and the mousetrap that we're trying to create to be better is that the users have full control over how other people have access to their networks and how everyone is able to vet one another. And that last piece is something that we're working really hard on, is how can that person in South Florida vet me and know that I'm somebody that they do or don't want to do business with, beyond saying this property isn't good enough. So we're building out robust profiles and a review system on the platform where the community can more or less self-police themselves. That way, whenever I come with my property in South Florida and provide it to this A player, they can say, "I don't know you. I don't know about this property, but everybody else on the community, they say that you're good. So maybe we should do business together." So that's how we're thinking about building the better mousetrap, is really full control, but then also full information so that you can decide what you do and don't want to do.
That's really interesting. But let me ask you something. For someone who is coming new into this industry, I alluded to the fact that at least here in Florida, we're getting a lot of people coming in every day, thinking that they're going to make it big, with
Yeah.
something like this. And a lot of them fail, right? What kind of advice would you give to them on what kind of tools to embrace, what kind of attitude to embrace, and basically how to be more successful as as a real estate agent or broker just starting out?
Yeah. Specifically as it relates to our platform, if you're just getting into the industry, there's no arguing with a good deal. And there's no way to excel faster than to work with people that have been in your shoes before and make a meaningful connection with them. So, my advice to guys, because we have a lot of new guys that come on our platform, and I say, okay, you're just getting started. You can connect with really great A+ players on the platform. And that's the way that you're going to succeed is by connecting with them. But before you do that, make sure that you have a high quality property. Make sure you have a property that people do actually want. And that's advice that I give probably 10 times a week is, hey, we're forming this ability for you to connect with the best people in your market or the best people in the industry so that you can use their experience to your advantage and their network to your advantage. But you got to start with the deal first. It has to be a property that they want to sell to their network, or it has to be a property they want to purchase themselves. So yeah, that's what I would say.
The visual that's coming up for me is Shark Tank, right?
Yeah,
How people that
exactly.
go into the tank and don't know their numbers just get eviscerated,
Yep.
by the sharks. And the ones that, even if they have a good presentation, the whole presentation does come apart as soon as the numbers start to unravel.
Yep.
And I think, a lot of that is training. A lot of that is, people come on, they think like, oh yeah, this is a great market, to use my Brickle example, Brickle sells itself. Of course it does. You can see the ocean from any window, right? But that's not the point. You still have all of this innate competition that you
Yep.
need to deal with as well. And it really comes down to, well, what value am I bringing to this transaction? And you can't just say, well, I speak Spanish as well because, well, that's 60% of Miami, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that's not a real differentiator. A real differentiator is how much business have you created and have you closed,
Mhm.
and part of that is based on the connections and the people that so
Yep.
I really like it. I really like that advice. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no
Paul,
problem.
where can people find out more about you, your company, and how can they reach out to you directly?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me directly just via email, paul@townsquare.com, spelled TWNSQR. And then you can find TownSquare across all social media platforms at TWNSQR. And yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media guy. I've had my head in the sands of real estate technology startups and raising money for the last couple of years. And honestly haven't had too much time to create a social media presence. It's something that I get a hard time. My friends give me a hard time for. So maybe one day, but yeah, you can send me an email, Paul@TownSquare, and find us across the internet on at TownSquare.
I love it. Paul, thank you for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. I love how you brought the energy, and I really appreciate you breaking this down for us. Thank you for
No
joining me.
problem.